Well, I come on for a moment to say for that last little video we just did, I want to tell y'all that as of this time, as I was recording that, started to feel like I was getting a little bit of a unusual feeling in my throat and probably a little bit of, in the sinuses, and kind of took one little notion to come along, try to maybe just do some more little work to come along and make little piggy the other side of the little pig. And I'd say we're probably going to do that because there was one whole pig that I finished today inside of McLeod's coffee house. I was sewing the whole thing, and this one is probably only being recorded about maybe about an hour after the last one was recorded, so I've got a little step or two to take along on this. Make sure we get a little line done out for this little piggy here and kinda work our way along the side of it to work it so it's going to make a little thing that happens to us when we kinda work hard and make our best efforts at what we do. Was just watching a new video tonight. If any of y'all watch Darman, Dharmann, he kinda does those types of videos that teach you all about really motivation and life lessons and all the interesting things we can kind of learn about life. Sometimes we also find out that when you kind of don't know different things about different people, sometimes it might also just so happen that you might not know what they're going through, and anybody could be going through anything. There'll be times in my life when I've gone through certain things, and it's affected me in ways that were kind of hard for people to understand because everybody didn't always know everything I went through in life. So it was all just kind of a little strange here and there as far as just how little things have worked in the lives of us all, making us all just kind of see a little thing in life as far as just how we kind of work about it and make our ways to what we know and do. And I say that this little pig is just one of those things that comes to its work. And I do want to tell you about a certain lady who ordered one inside out from me from the time of the type that I made that just kind of crawled on all fours. And it was one, she purchased it from me and at her request, and even tried to suggest to me that I make many more like that. So I told her if anybody requested one of me, I would, and just like I kind of did for her. But that's just kind of the way I work about little things and make things so they come out as best they can be. And we think about heavenly reunions now. Think about all the material things we don't get to take to heaven with us, but all the people we fellowship with here on earth who kind of know God like we do and know Jesus like we do, and seeing the fact that we're going to take all of them with us to heaven, and all the things we see in life, people we knew here on earth, and how we're going to see them again. There's even people who have already gone on to be with him, and sometimes I even forget that they're no longer here on earth. So, it's like maybe when I'm awake I remember, but even in my dreams these people show up again. And I tell you, I get a little bit older and busier, have more going on than I used to, and that's kind of the reason why I just see some different things in my dreams than I used to. And it kind of took me a while to kind of reach certain times in my life where I got to certain places where I learned certain things, and then eventually it just all came about. I will say, for one thing, I was talking about COVID in the last video. If in fact I'm coming down with it, I will say that might even mean that I will miss this show that I'm scheduled for on Saturday. The show I'm supposed to be in. We'll have to kind of wait and see how I feel tomorrow morning. I might have to take a test depending on how I start feeling, because we don't know how that's going to be when the morning comes. But it's going to be just one of those things where we kind of know that life can kind of take us places where never thought it would. And other than that, I just can't wait to get out to Forks of Elkhorn this weekend and to show my work out there, because it's just one big show that happens every year, one where I make among the best sales I make at any shows. And then also just seeing the same people come out every year is always just a little wonderful thing. And always getting to know these people and knowing that they follow your page and see your work and see your updates, and that they will come by and see the things you do. I show what I do with this little pig, kind of making these little lines, kind of making these little tabs. Screw all that, it's all just old stuff. I say that little times in life we suffer our ways. We know that life can always just kind of be of good cheer to us and make us know that God is always good. God is always great. And so much I say when I kind of go to these posts and see the posts people make. I was even watching a little YouTube video last night about Muhammad Ali. The video, I'd say, was kind of controversial, so we won't get into all that it was about. It's just kind of things where people just kind of, debate people. I mean, whether they're in heaven or hell, all this stuff. I mean, it's none of our business. That's just between people and God as far as things go like that. So we just cannot really mind to that. That's one of the main reasons why there's just certain types of churches and Bible studies I no longer attend, because I know that there's been too much I've heard of that nature, what people speak and what they say, and all this stuff I've learned about how controversial it is when you kind of go out into other places and say what you've heard said in pulpits and things. So it's just kind of one of those things where we know there's differences among people, what we see and what we hear, but we know that there is only one true God who knows all things, and there's just so much in life that we know there's people just debate, religion, politics, like all this stuff that's kind of going on in Kentucky right now with Daniel Cameron and Andy Bashir, and between our picks of governors, and how that this is just coming on. Like, I have a great aunt who, she's Republican through and through, and talking about Daniel Cameron and all, but no need to really get on that, you know. We all just kind of have our different preferences, different parties like different things, but sometimes, just sometimes, that also gets to be the reason why there just gets to be some stuff that comes on the internet that is just spam. It's called spam. There were things like religion and politics and memes. I used to message it to people just to aggravate and just to kind of cause little stir ups or whatever you call it. And it would always just kind of be the kind of thing where people just respond to me telling me at one point to stop sending them religion. Then when I start sending them politics, they turn back right and say, stop sending me your spam garbage. I say, oh, the silliness in the world comes and goes, you know. And even one day there was somebody who, years ago I did that to him, and he's like, you're bothering me for months. All this stuff about echo chambers of agreement, and I said, actually, I'm just being silly with you just to see what I get on, to see what I can get out of you. And replies back to me saying, for what reason is your life so dull that you bother a complete stranger? And I say, my life ain't like that anymore. I got business in my hands. I got things I can do a little more, and I can kind of get a little bit better enjoyment out of life, and all I can do and all I can be. I say that there's just all this stuff where little things happen in our lives, and you know, as to how it goes, even whenever it comes to kids, sometimes, in my lifetime, I tell you, I had a great uncle once who kind of liked to bother kids, and he was just kind of an aggravation to some people. Some thought he was rather obnoxious, but to me, I always thought he was funny. He was somebody who, to me, was a family comedian. I always thought everybody had all these different thoughts in different ways. Probably somebody with whom I got along so well because he or I, neither one really liked to be in crowds. So it was just kind of different from us, how it all just came down to being just us and all we could do and all we could say and all we could make of what we had and what we said in life. And I tell y'all that this little work is just kind of sewing little threads into little denim and making it work just for the best of us. Good thing I did not drop my needle in my water. I probably could have rescued it out, but the little issue is if I tried to drink it after that, probably would have ended up swallowing that needle. I'm not Houdini. Not Houdini. Houdini had a certain signature act with which he could kind of take several needles and kind of swallow them and pull them all out of the same mouth he put them into. And he just had special skill for things that none of the rest of us have. I've even researched about him. I've listened to little podcasts about him and learned these things about Houdini and who he was and all he could do, and even heard that there had been some magicians who tried to copy his tricks. They tried to do things just like he did, and sometimes some magicians, sadly, tragically, not so funnily, ended up killing themselves trying to do some of his tricks. For he had things that took a special skill to do. Not everybody had them. I even kind of heard the tragic story as to how he died, and I mean, that was so horrible. You know, you could probably kind of Google it and look it up for yourselves if you wanted to know, but it's just too much for me to think about, too much for me to talk about, too much for me to contemplate. I say, he just kind of was a little magician, and sometimes, just sometimes, people tested him just to see how much magic was really in him, like a college student once did, and punched him right where he had sciatica. Oh, I tell you that these little pigs from this dirty denim kind of makes them great. And one day I might kind of do a video where I might show how I sew the opossum. The opossum comes from dirty denim as well. The stained denim with all the things that are hard to wash out in it. I like to show how I do this little video to make. And the last one, I just downloaded it from Amazon Photos, but haven't uploaded it to YouTube yet. Don't know when I'll get around to doing that. If I get sick in the next day or two, more likely will definitely do it because won't have nowhere else to go, nowhere else to be, nothing else to do, and so that's just kind of the best of the way that is just going to have to work out. So all we know is little Houdini can kind of work his way about us, and little things we see. I wanted to tell you all a story about some kids I knew growing up. They had a little hamster named Houdini, and they told us how they got the name for it. It was like when they were carrying him home from the pet store in the little pet box. He chewed through the box and almost got loose, kind of like the way it was when Houdini walked through that wall. They knew he could do a special trick like that, so they named him for the special little trick that he could do. I mean, you know, I've always heard them say how hamsters come from the desert and how that they are preyed upon by some lizards. Even in the doctrines I've read, I've learned how out in the desert, you know, they are preyed upon by coyotes, snakes, all kinds of little enemies they have. And sometimes just knowing the things they have to look out for, just like how the chipmunks do here in the area where I live. I read about chipmunks when I was a kid and learned that they're not so safe in their burrows, you know, that they have all kinds of enemies on the land, like hawks, owls, foxes, bobcats, coyotes, but it said in there that their worst enemies are snakes and weasels, as those can follow them into their burrows. So it's like little things that keep us unsafe. And how one time I was in a pet store in my teen years and saw a man in there who apparently he had a chipmunk in his own home. He was asking the pet store employee if he should put a hamster in with his chipmunk. And they told him, no, that chipmunk will scare that hamster to death. So there's all kinds of advice we learn from people, places, where we go, what we do, oh, the things we see and say. I tell y'all that this is just life for us. Just life. Finally got a place where I kind of sewed in the inside of the hoof by itself because that was just all that I had a long enough strand of thread to do. But we kind of put another little strand through the needle and that's the eye of the needle, and all the things we kind of work about to make it so we're seeing little bright, shiny days in our lives. I say we got a little pig to do. We got the little lining to do, the little place to put the knot right in and kind of sew right along on it. Say, put the knot through the denim and make it so it goes straight in. And I say, oh, the pig is just some little character of the little parable of the prodigal son. Somehow I tell y'all, we didn't get this through all the way, so kinda got to make the knot right in its own little place to be where it's going to be. And I say that we kinda got probably a place where, well, I tell you, the thread just went over my ear there. So come back around, take it up the rest of the way up, and I tell y'all all those old stories I heard about roaches, June bugs, things like that in people's ears. Strange little stories I've heard, but seen it all online. Heard a story about a time my mom had a June bug in her ear when she was a kid, and the story about how my grandmother kind of came in there and put some medicine in her ear to kill the June bug and take it out. Sometimes, just sometimes, we kind of know that little stories like that will happen in life, but we know that there's been different things happen. I say, sometimes as a kid, couldn't tell a June bug from a Japanese beetle. I've seen both go around the pool when I was a kid, out in those public pools, those bugs, they kind of get in those pools, and even as an adult, I've been back to some of these city pools and seen some of those big stag beetles out there, and you got to watch out for those big stag beetles because they're so huge and got such big mouths they can bite you. One time I kind of took it upon myself to rescue one of those out of the water, and luckily enough I didn't get bitten because I found a way to do it without getting bitten. So that was what worked for the better. There would even be a lot of bees and wasps that would kind of be in that water that I couldn't always rescue because they would always be kind of in little places where, you know, they'd sting you if you tried to rescue them. Couldn't be much of a way to rescue those, but I've even seen a video on Facebook where there were little parasites in hornets, and where people held little hornets and they kind of used a little pair of tweezers to remove the parasite from the inside of their tail where they had all the little, you know, spikes and scales on the back, and they even demonstrated in the video how the little parasite was removed. Oh, little strange things we see and find as they go in life, and I say that that was among the strangest things. They kind of say that hornets can, in some ways, be kind of essential to the environment, so they kind of had to remove the parasites to save them and keep them where they could be of all essentials. I know one thing for sure, people try to protect bees these days for pollination of plants and honey. I mean, I don't really in my life believe for sure that you should ever get out the bug spray, the water hose, or the flamethrower, or call the exterminator, which people say don't do, but call the beekeeper instead. I do believe we do want to save the bees and call the beekeeper to do it, but there'd be little times I'd get on social media and when people post something, maybe post a little joke about that, kind of as a little joke, say, so what if we get out if we call the exterminator, get out the water hose, the flamethrower, or the bug spray. At least nobody gets stung. But a lot of people, they don't appreciate comments like that. You know, I could kind of say them just to try to be a little funny, but you know, some people like, oh, bees are more important than humans, which they are, but everybody takes a little joke differently. Not everybody takes a joke the same way, you know. Come along on this. We got this much far along. Us say for now, we might take this little strand of thread and do a little bit more work up the pig's leg and kind of take it a little bit further up to where we will meet the angle of the hoof and work little ways along to get up to that place where we're going to see the little point go through and see how we'll make it the rest of the way. I say that sometimes work can be special to us. In our lives, we work for good, we work for money, we work for gifts, and this is just my way of saying thanks, y'all, for watching this. You know, there comes little times when we're going to see certain things, do certain things, be certain things, and oh, I tell y'all that we're just going to have a little bit to go further on this piece before we almost come to the end, and I think we're just almost getting there. I think there's a place or two we might go about as we get to the end, make it so the pig is going to be a little stuffed and blue and oh, the denim in his life, and tell us all how gracious little work can do for us. This was the little strand that got stuck a while back while we were doing the other little strand, so we're going to kind of separate this, make it so it's going to come out a little bit longer the rest of the way, and kind of, I'd say, like put the little thread inside the little needle and kind of, oh, I say, kind of get a little work done in this, make it so pigs, they be little special critters to us, and try to make it so the knot is going to go in, try to make it so the knot is going to stay in place. You might have to kind of tie it several times and to get it right in the place where it needs to be. So this is where we're getting the place along, making it so we're getting it right in. I say that we got a little knot coming right in that way, and so almost about to pull it on through and give our little work some credit, and then just a little knot is gonna come right in, make us see little ways of doing things. Oh, and I tell y'all that we got a little sewing to do just for this one place here at the front of the tummy, and there's going to be a couple other sides we'll put together sooner or later, soon as we get the chance to do it, soon as we get to feeling like doing it, and make it so we're going to brighten little work and see little days come ahead of us. And as for me, I might be getting a little tired, might be getting a little thirsty, but I'd say that the work is making itself the rest of the way, coming down to seeing what we're doing. I say that this is just one little thing that makes its way about us, works its way through us, sees the joy in all the little work of the world that we do. And oh, I say, bright little heavens to come like this all like day. And sometimes, just sometimes, things will get a little silly now and then. We'll hear a little funny thing now and then, see a little funny thing now and then. Sometimes, just sometimes, we'll be a little more conservative and sometimes be a little more liberal, but that's how life works. All for the better, all for the good, and see how it is. There's a little positive and a little negative to life. Things have the positives and things have the negatives, and if it just has one or the other, it doesn't work. So here we go, putting the thread through. We got a little knot to make there, and so we pull it on out through the pig, make it so we kind of look our way to what we do and what we make and see and say, and all kinds of bright little magical things to happen. And there we kind of get much more done with one more piece of work. There's going to be other steps to come along later as we go further along about the pig, but these are the steps for tonight, the steps we took tonight, and where it's going to end for the evening. So, thank you for coming on. Thank you for watching. Means a lot. Subscribe to this channel if it so interests you, and take care.